Pax vobiscum. Welcome back to the channel, and to another episode of The Vestal Virgin Reads. Today we are going to continue our reading of Character, the Grandest Thing in the World by Orison Swett Marden, with Chapter 7, The Wealth of the Commonwealth. Meal, please, your majesty, is a halfpenny a peck at Athens, and water I get for nothing. This was the answer made by Socrates to King Archelaus, who had pressed him to give up preaching in the dirty streets of Athens and come and live with him in his splendid courts. "I don't want such things," said Epictetus to the rich Roman orator who was making light of his contempt for money-wealth, "and besides you are poorer than I am. You have silver vessels, but earthenware reasons, principles, appetites. My mind furnishes me with abundant occupation in lieu of your restless idleness. All of your possessions seem small to you, mine seem great to me. Your desire is insatiate, mine is satisfied." "I have a rich neighbor," said Isaac Walton, "who is always so busy that he has no leisure to laugh. The whole business of his life is to get money, and more money. He is still drudging on, and says that the diligent hand maketh rich. And it is true indeed, but he considers not that it is not in the power of riches to make a man happy, or, as was wisely said by a man of great observation, that there may be as many miseries beyond riches as on this side of them. The keys that keep those riches hang often heavily at the rich man's girdle. Let us be thankful for health and competence, and for a quiet conscience." "Money is not needful," said Professor Blackie to the young men of Edinburgh University. "Power is not needful. Liberty is not needful. Even health is not one thing needful. But character alone is that which can truly save us." "The real benefactors of mankind," says Emerson, "are the men and women who can raise their fellow beings out of the world of corn and money, who make them forget the bank account by interesting them in their higher selves, who can raise mere money-getters into the intellectual realm, where they will cease to measure greatness and happiness by dollars and cents, who can make men forget their stomachs and feast on being's banquet. He is the richest man who enriches his country most, in whom the people feel richest and proudest, who give himself with his money, who opens the doors of opportunity widest to those about him, who has ears to the deaf, eyes to the blind, and feet to the lame. Such a man makes every acre of land in his community worth more, and makes richer every man who lives near him. On the other hand, many a millionaire has impoverished the town in which he lived, and lessened the value of every foot of land." What is character but the poor man's capital? Is it not character an available piece of property? Is it not estimated as moral security, the noblest of possessions? It is an estate in the general goodwill and respect of men, and they who invest in it will find their reward in esteem and reputation fairly and honorably won. "Thee shall do as well by me as I do by thee," said a Quaker tanner when he took an apprentice. The boy won his employer's confidence by his honesty, good nature, and industry. "Henry," said the friend, "I think of making thee a fine present when thy time is out. I cannot tell thee what it is to be, but it shall be worth more to thee than 100 pounds. When the apprenticeship expired, the Quaker said, "I will give thy present to thy father," adding, as he addressed the latter, "Thy son is the best boy I ever had. This is the present, a good name." Henry's golden visions vanished, but his father said, "I would rather hear you say that of my son than to see you give him all the money you are worth, for a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches." It was the outcome of the lad's own exertion, the reward of his own good principles and conduct. A good name. Without it gold has no value, birth no distinction, station no dignity, beauty no charm, and age no reverence. "Character is like stock in trade," said Dr. Howes of Hartford. "The more of it a man possesses, the greater his facilities for making additions to it. Character is power, is influence. It makes friends, creates funds, draws patronage and support, and opens a sure and easy way to wealth, honor, and happiness. How were a multitude of businessmen who lost every dollar they had in the Chicago fire enabled to resume business at once, some in a wholesale business without money? The record was their bank account. The commercial agency said that they were square men, that they had always paid 100 cents on a dollar, that they had paid promptly, and that they were industrious and dealt honorably with all men. This record was as good as a bank account. They drew on their character. Character was the coin that enabled penniless men to buy thousands of dollars worth of goods. Their integrity did not burn up with their stores. The best part of them was beyond reach of fire, and could not be burned. A good character is a precious thing, above rubies, gold, crowns, or kingdoms, and the work of making it is the noblest labor on earth. Money-getting has well been called unhealthy when it impoverishes the mind, or dries up the sources of the spiritual life, when it extinguishes the sense of beauty, and makes one indifferent to the wonders of nature and art, when it blunts the moral sense, confuses the distinction between right and wrong, virtue and vice, when it stifles religious impulse, and blots all thoughts of God from the soul. It is just as important to set apart time for the development of our aesthetic facilities as for cultivating the money-getting instinct. A man cannot live by bread alone. His higher life demands an impalpable food. It takes a large bill of fare to feed an immortal being. The mind and soul in a well-developed man are ever more imperious in their demand for the true and the beautiful than is the body for material food. Character is perpetual wealth, and by the side of him who possesses it the millionaire who has it not seems a pauper. Compared with it, what are houses and lands, stocks and bonds? It is better that great souls should live in small habitations than that abject slaves should burrow in great houses. Plain living, rich thought, and grand effort are real riches. Neither a man's means nor his worth are measurable by his money. If he has a fat purse and a lean heart, a broad estate and a narrow understanding, what will his means do for him? What will his worth gain him? What sadder sight is there than that of an old man who has spent his whole life getting instead of growing? If he has piled up books, statuary, and paintings with his wealth, he may be a stranger amongst them. How poor he is if his soul has shriveled to that of a miser, and if all his nobler instincts are dead. Do you call him successful who wears a bulldog expression that but too plainly tells of the story of how he gained his fortune, taking but never giving? Can you not read that in the browbeating face that sad experience of widows and orphans? Do you call him a self-made man who has unmade others to make himself, who tears others down to build himself up? Can a man be really rich who makes others poorer? Can he be happy in whose every lineament chronic avarice is seen as plainly as hunger, in the countenance of a wolf? How seldom are sweet, serene, beautiful faces seen on men who have been very successful as the world rates success. Nature expresses in the face and manner the sentiment which rules the heart. When I say in conducting your understanding, love knowledge with great love, says Sidney Smith, with a vehement love, with a love coeval with life, what do I say but love innocence, love virtue, love purity of conduct, love that which, if you are rich and great, will vindicate the blind fortune which has made you so, and make men call it justice. Love that which, if you are poor, will render your poverty respectable, and make the proudest feel that it is unjust to laugh at the meanness of your fortunes. Love that which will comfort you, adorn you, and never quit you, which will open to you the kingdom of thought, and all the boundless regions of conception as an asylum against the cruelty, the injustice, and the pain that may be your lot in the world. That which will make your motives habitually great and honorable, and light up in an instant 1,000 noble disdains at the very thought of meanness and of fraud. Character before wealth was the motto of our Boston merchant Amos Lawrence, who inscribed on his pocketbook, "What shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world, and lose his own soul?" "Do you know, sir," asked a devotee of Mammon in speaking to John Bright, "that I am worth 1,000,000 sterling, "Yes," said the irritated but calm-spirited respondent, "I do, and I know that is all you are worth." "Life is constantly weighing us in very sensitive scales," says Lowell, "and telling every one of us precisely what his ideal weight is, to the last grain of dust. I ought not to allow any man, because he has broad lands, to feel that he is rich in my presence," says Emerson. "I ought to make him feel that I can do without his riches, that I cannot be bought, neither by comfort, neither by pride, and although I'd be utterly penniless and receiving bread from him, that he is the poor man beside me." "What do we mean," asked Henry Ward Beecher, "when we say that a man is made? Is it that he has got control of his lower instincts, so that they are only fuel to his higher feelings, giving force to his nature? That his affections are like vines, sending out on all sides blossoms and clustering fruits? That his tastes are so cultivated that all beautiful things speak to him, and bring him their delights? That his understanding is opened, so that he walks through every hall of knowledge and gathers its treasures? That his moral feelings are so developed and quickened that he holds sweet commerce with heaven? Oh, no, none of these things. He is cold and dead in heart and mind and soul. Only his passions are alive. But he is worth $500,000. And we say a man is ruined. Are his wife and children dead? Oh, no. Have they had a quarrel? Are they separated from him? Oh, no. Has he lost his reputation through crime? No. Is his reason gone? Oh, no, it is as sound as ever. Is he struck through with disease? No. He has lost his property, and he is ruined. The man ruined. When shall we learn that a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth? A bankrupt merchant returning home one night said to his noble wife, "My dear, I am ruined. Everything we have is now in the hands of the sheriff." After a few moments of silence, the wife looked into his face and asked, "Will the sheriff sell you?" "Oh, no." "Will the sheriff sell me?" "Oh, no." "Will he sell the children?" "Oh, no." "Then do not say that we have lost everything. All that is most valuable remains to us. Manhood, womanhood, childhood. We can make another fortune if our hearts and hands are left to us. We have lost but the results of our skill and industry." What power can poverty have over a home, where loving hearts are beating with a consciousness of untold riches of head and heart? A rich mind and noble spirit will cast over the humblest home a radiance of beauty, which the upholsterer and decorator can never approach. Who could not prefer to be a millionaire of character, of contentment, rather than possess nothing but the vulgar coins of a Croesus? Whoever uplifts civilization is rich though he die penniless, and future generations will erect his monument. Some men are rich in health, in constant cheerfulness, and a mercurial temperament which floats them over troubles and trials enough to sink a shipload of ordinary men. Others are rich in disposition, family, and friends. There are some men who are so amiable that everybody loves them, some so cheerful that they carry an atmosphere of joviality about them. Some are rich in integrity and character. What are the toil-sweated productions of wealth piled up in vast profusion around a Girard or a Rothschild, when weighed against the stores of wisdom, the treasures of knowledge, and the strength, beauty, and glory with which victorious virtue has enriched and adorned a great multitude of minds during the march of 100 generations? Philip Brooks, Whittier, Thoreau, Audubon, Emerson, Beecher, Agassiz were rich without money. They saw the splendor in the flower, the glory in the grass, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. They knew that the man who owns the landscape is seldom the one who pays the taxes on it. They sucked in power and wealth at first hand from the meadows and fields, birds, brooks, mountains, and forests, as the bee sucks honey from the flowers. Every natural object seemed to bring them a special message from the great author of the beautiful. To such rare souls every natural object is touched with power and beauty. and their thirsty souls drink it in as a traveler on a desert drinks in the God-sent water of the oasis. To extract power and spiritual wealth from the world around them seems to be their mission, and to pour it out again in refreshing showers upon a thirsty humanity. "What is the measure of a nation's true success?" asked Lowell. "It is the amount it has contributed to the thought, the moral energy, the intellectual happiness, the spiritual hope, and consolation of mankind." All this has been said as to the nature of true wealth, after first of all assuming that every human being has been trained in early life, when irrevocable habits are formed, in the fundamental laws of thrift, daily labor, earning a fair means of living, saving enough for pecuniary independence in days of sickness and old age, avoidance of debt, readiness to help others, and all those wholesome divine rules of frugal self-preservation that are to be as rigidly learned and obeyed as the 10 Commandments. 6 days for labor, and a life without theft or a lie or covetousness. Assuming all this, one of the first great lessons of life is to learn the true estimate of values. As the youth starts out in his career, all sorts of wares will be imposed upon him, and all kinds of temptations will be used to induce him to buy. His success will depend very largely upon his ability to estimate properly, not the apparent but the real value of everything presented to him. Vulgar wealth will flaunt her banner before his eyes, and claim supremacy over everything else. 1,000 schemes will thrust their claims into his face. Every occupation and vocation will present its charms. The youth who would succeed must not allow himself to be deceived, but place the emphasis of life where it belongs. Is it any wonder that our children start out with wrong ideals of life, with wrong ideas of what constitutes success? The child is urged to get it on, to rise in the world, and to make money. Yet one of the great lessons to teach in this century of sharp competition and the survival of the fittest is how to be rich without money, and to learn how to do without what is popularly and falsely called success. "I believe," says Julia Ward Howe, "that many of our youth are learning that a worthy life is the best success, whether it is attended by wealth or poverty, or by that most preferable condition of all, a modest competency. Pure upright living and steady devotion to principle are the surest foundations of any success worth having." "No success in life," says Francis E. Willard, "is anything but an absolute failure, unless its purpose is to increase the sum of human good and happiness." All honor to the comparative few in every walk of life, who amid the strong materialistic tendencies of our age still speak and act earnestly, inspired by the hope of rewards other than gold or popular favor. These are our truly great men and women. They labor in their ordinary vocations with no less zeal, because they give time and thought to higher things. "A man may as soon fill a chest with grace or a vessel with virtue," says Philip Brooks, "as a heart with wealth." "If you would know the power of character," says Emerson, "see how much you would impoverish the world if you could take clean out of history the lives of Milton, Shakespeare, and Plato, these 3, and cause them not to be. Are we tender, loving, self-denying, and honest, trying to fashion our frail lives after that of the model man of Nazareth? Then, though our pockets are often empty, we have an inheritance which is as overwhelmingly precious as it is eternally incorruptible." Money doesn't buy happiness. We've all heard that before, and especially nowadays such a phrase can be a heated topic. It is easy for those with lots of money to say money doesn't buy happiness, some claim. Look at all they have. They can buy whatever they wish, while those without money can't even afford health care or meals for their children. It can be easy to allot the phrase, to be rich is to be happy, to be rich is to be evil, to be poor is to be depressed, to be poor is to be lazy. I've heard all of those phrases before, but in this chapter, Marden is not saying money doesn't buy happiness. Now, I think what Marden is trying to demonstrate is that money and material riches don't define your character, and don't have to necessarily define your mental being or your happiness truly. Marden quotes another person stating, "It is not in the power of riches to make a man happy." That sounds quite like money doesn't buy happiness, doesn't it? But let's look at the quote once again. What word exists the second time that doesn't in the first? The word is power. "What is character but a poor man's capital?" Marden quotes. "It is an estate in the general goodwill and respect of men, and they who invest in it will find their reward in esteem and reputation fairly and honorably won." What Marden is describing here is character as power, the ultimate power, a more powerful thing than anything really, even over money and riches, and Marden goes so far as to say health. In a time of great inflation, that may not seem a soothing thing to hear. Character as a power greater than money, reputation as something to invest in and gain great reward from. "But I need money," my friends said when I brought up this topic to them. "If I don't have money, how am I going to survive?" And that is a valid point. We do have to have money in order to survive. And I am privileged that I am able to work a job that allows me to do such things like this channel as a side thing and invest some of my hard-earned money into creating things. So I want to caveat by saying that I am not saying that money is useless or unneeded or evil itself, or invalidating those who struggle. What I am trying to say here is that there is hope and reassurance, that even if you have nothing, no money, no material possessions, you still have something. Something that is yours and something that no one but your own self can take away. Something that is powerful and malleable and something that can actually help you. As we see here, quote, "Character is power. It is influence. It makes friends, creates funds, draws patronage and support, and opens a sure and easy way to wealth, honor, and happiness." So Marden quotes Dr. House. And let's look at that word again. Power. Character is the power of the individual, the foundation that allows connections of family, friends, and finances to be built on. And for me personally, this makes me think of the concept of the American dream, and the sort of discussion that's been going on with the concept of opportunity. Well, if you are of yourself of good character, the opportunities will sort of come to you. Like we discussed in a previous video, if your reputation or your character is in shambles, if your character is known to be selfish or greedy or uncompromising or belittling or traumatizing, who will want to be around you? If you cannot keep a promise, who will lend you anything? Investing in genuine reflection and growth and respect towards your fellow man and yourself, and containing our primal urges with temperance and humility. It is these base investments that open doors of opportunity, by which we may increase our quality of life, no matter what circumstances we find ourselves in. And those circumstances and those doors of opportunity, the quality of life, do not always necessarily translate to money. As Marden gave examples of, you can be poor and destitute and yet still be fully rich, because you have control of your own character, and you have the opportunity to be able to pursue things because of the doors that your character opens. But in this chapter, Marden does not only talk about the growth of the personal, of investing and fighting for only ourselves and our lives and our increased riches. The chapter's very title is The Wealth of the Commonwealth, and that wealth, Marden puts forward, is this: he is the richest man who enriches his country most, in whom the people feel richest and proudest, who gives himself with his money, who opens the doors of opportunity widest to those about him, who has ears to the deaf, eyes to the blind, and feet to the lame. Such a man makes every acre of land in his community worth more, and makes richer every man who lives near him. On the other hand, many a millionaire has impoverished the town in which he lived, and lessened the value of every foot of land. In every country and culture in the world, there are cautionary tales, myths, legends, stories, metaphors, and other such things that describe what can become of a person when they pursue only the material and not the spiritual, and this is just not physically but mentally. You can have all the money in the world, can mize it away like a dragon's hoard, or spend it all on toys and lavish things and hedonism purely for yourself. If it is your money truly, you can decide what to do with it. Such is the burden of free will. However, hoarding gold and riches and material possessions without purpose, perhaps that is why we say of many of those who are rich trying to gain more and more money and things and trying to show off just how much they own. Perhaps it is because they are missing a key element, and I propose that key element is character. As we've seen before, a good personal character drives us not just to help ourselves, but to help others. In fact, many times putting others before ourselves. Like the biblical example of the widow giving 2 pennies to the offering, giving all she had for the benefit of someone else. Many of the affluent and rich, too, go out of their way to benefit their communities. As we said before, money does not define character. It is the individual who wields the money, the individual who can either give into the siren song of more, or can stand on their own character and enjoy the fruits of their labor, which is their right, while caring enough about their fellow man to take their own blessings and share them with others. And with this as well, making sure that their own blessings are not built on the backs of others, taking instead of giving. Marden notes, many a millionaire has impoverished the town in which he lived, and lessened the value of every foot of land. And also, do you call him successful who wears a bulldog expression that but too plainly tells the story of how he gained his fortune, taking but never giving? Can you not read in that browbeating face the sad experience of widows and orphans? Do you call him a self-made man who has unmade others to make himself, who tears others down to build himself up? Can a man be really rich who makes others poorer? And finally, from the Bible, what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Now, I could go on and on about this chapter, as it was one of the longer ones, and it has so many interesting discussion points in it, but instead I think I'm going to devote the Vestivox episode at the conclusion of our reading to a majority of this chapter instead, as it does also cover many main themes of the book. And so with that, we shall end today's discussion/soapbox with some parting thoughts of mine. I mentioned in the last video my observation of the current day and the push for more money, more things, focus on personality and not the strength of character. Don't think too often about things. Who needs art and reading and literature, and who needs temperance and humility? How we seem to be missing the mark in so many things. And, well, as we can see from our reading, it seems Marden had the same thoughts in 1899. One of the saddest yet comforting things, I think in a way, is the knowledge that people have always been people, and the problems we face today are not necessarily brand new to us, so much as the same question under a different face of technology. Again to quote, "Is it any wonder that our children start out with the wrong ideals of life, with wrong ideas of what constitutes success? The child is urged to get it on, to rise in the world, to make money. Yet one of the great lessons to teach in this century of sharp competition and the survival of the fittest is how to be rich without money, and to learn how to do without what is popularly and falsely called success." Whether in 1899, 1969, or modern day, it seems that we will always be in the pursuit of something more. And with that under consideration, I'd like to end this video with the final quote of the chapter. For your consideration, are we tender, loving, self-denying, and honest, trying to fashion our frail lives after that of the model man of Nazareth? Then, though our pockets are often empty, we have an inheritance which is overwhelmingly precious, as it is as eternally. Are we tender, loving, self-denying, and honest, trying to fashion our frail lives after that of the model man of Nazareth? Then, though our pockets are often empty, we have an inheritance which is as overwhelmingly precious, as it is eternally incorruptible. I hope all of you have a wonderful week, and may you be blessed richly and warmly. Pax vobiscum. Goodbye.